Let's discover the UK with A&K.
Welcome to Travel Tuesday with Teresa, the ultimate source of wanderlust inspiration. Join the journey led by your host, Teresa Belcher, founder of Honeymoon Islands.
Welcome back to Travel Tuesday with Teresa. I'm your host, Teresa Belcher, and your travel advisor. I'm the founder of Honeymoon Islands. And today my guest host is Andrew from the Abercrombie & Kent office in Europe. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Thanks so much for having us today.
Well, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to your presentation to take us through England and Scotland, but I want to let people know, the watchers know, that A&K office in Europe does not work with the consumer, the traveler. They only work with travel advisors. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're purely a business-to-business basis. So everything that any of your clients need to get to work with, we work together with you in order to create the perfect trip for all of our guests.
Awesome. And you guys make me look like a rock star. You're my travel partner in Europe. So between the two of our businesses, we create whatever the client wants. Everything is customizable. So anything and everything you see in Andrew's presentation, we can create and we can go beyond that. As a matter of fact, this is just a sample. So over to you. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Teresa. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody again for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to share the UK and Ireland with you. So let's get started. I'd like to firstly, again, just to add to what Teresa was saying in terms of just being able to introduce myself. So my name's Andrew Gallagher. I'm the Regional Sales and Marketing Director for Abercrombie & Kent, here based in the Cotswolds in the UK. It's an area of beautiful countryside, picturesque villages, vibrant market towns, and I'm very lucky for it to call it my home with my wife and my two children. So what I would really love to share with you today are some of the secrets that we have in and around the UK, and hopefully use as a bit of an inspiration to help planning your next trip. When you get in touch with Teresa, we'll then start planning some ideas for you, and then create your perfect itinerary. So today I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey through England and Scotland particularly, and then we're going to be able to come back and really start talking about how we can plan everything for you going forward on your next visit to the UK. But for those of you who may not know much about A&K and how we know it set us apart. So our guardian angels are basically our secret sauce. That's what stands us apart. It's our people. We have strength in numbers. Our wonderful guardian angel network are extensive throughout Europe. So for some of you who haven't come across the term guardian angels, basically they're available for you 24 hours a day. So from the moment you arrive to the moment you leave, there is somebody physically there for you, almost like a personal concierge, if you will. So at the end of the phone, to give you local hints and tips, advice on their favorite restaurants, to make any changes to your itinerary, and to reassure you of any concerns that you may have. And we all have concerns when you're arriving into a destination that you may not have been to before. So having somebody physically there for you just really adds to that sense of well-being, and also that sense of security when you're traveling. But they're truly to ensure that our guests have the possible best trip. So as soon as you arrive at the airport to the moment you leave, there's somebody there physically for you. So our guardian angels bring everything together, working with our local officers. And as we start to take you into London as a starting point, it is our main gateway into the UK, so it seems a natural way to be able to start for us. And if you're visiting London, no matter how long, your only problem is really kind of to work out, what you can actually afford to miss. There's just so much to be able to see. The city's just too large, too rich in options for you to possibly get all of it in one typical visit. So the ideas what you might be thinking about is in terms of, okay, which incredible food or clothing market do I need to browse? Do you do St. Paul's Cathedral? Do you go to Westminster Abbey? Which classic department store do I head to first? What about the abundant number of pubs that they have in the UK? And don't get even started on the number of restaurants as well, or our world-class shows that you're able to see in the West End in the theatre district. So it can be quite a tough choice. But as long as Teresa and A&K, we come together to be able to really guide you through, and we design the perfect trip for you. But London's top highlights, well, they're not a secret. It's an international capital. It's one of the world's top tourist destinations as well. But there are different and unique ways to explore it. And our aim is to show you just a few of these options. So let me take you through some of these experiences. Most of you will have heard of the River Thames. It winds its way through the heart of London, but we're actually going to warm you up gently on the canals of London instead. And you're able to start just outside Paddington, the famous Paddington station, where you're able to pick up your electric-powered boat for a relaxing journey along the central waterways through central London. You'll quickly be amazed by just how peaceful it is. It's quiet, and you can find that you're so close to the normal hustle and bustle of inner city London, but actually you feel as though you're miles away. And you pass through a beautiful area of Little Venice, and you make your way through the pleasant canal side, and it's lined with beautiful traditional barges, as you can see here, and Regency style houses. And as you're carrying your way through the canal, once you've passed through past London Zoo, you can hear all the animals, and you find yourself at Camden Lock. And it's a famous, vibrant market. And I really highly recommend this in terms of visiting for the street food stalls in Camden Market. Many people would have heard of Borough Market, and it's all over social media of the main place to go. Some of the great places to try food in central London. My little tip for you is head to Camden Market instead. There are so many incredible places to go and eat some of the street food, especially good for repeat visitors. So if you've done London before, this is a great place to be able to come through. You can get away from the general clamour and see some of London from a different new perspective. And then learning something new that you can take home with you is quite a part of the fun of travel, really, in my eyes. And it adds an extra dimension to the overall memorable experiences, really. So what about the history of London? Well, we can tell the history of London in 4 drinks. Yes, that's right, 4 drinks. So you learn how Londoners have been influenced by tea, coffee, gin, and beer, and how these popular beverages have actually helped shape England's capital. So you can design your own London gin at the Ginstitute in Portobello Market. So your gin instructor will guide you through choosing your favorite botanicals. You get to create and bespoke and blend your own gin that you're able to then take it home with you. There's also the quintessential British drink of tea. And with the wars and chunks of the British Empire that have been lost in the tea blending masterclass, you then get to blend a lot of the teas there, and the art of tea tasting, create your own tea blends. And again, you can also take that home with you. And then you find out why beer has been, once upon a time, it was actually endorsed by the British government to be actually cleaner than water. So there's so much to be able to take from these beverages, from the history of London in itself. London's home to so many iconic attractions, as I mentioned, well-known museums, world-class restaurants, but it's also brimming over with under-the-radar little gems. Perfect when you want to spend time off the beaten track. So we give you an opportunity to discover the forgotten underground stations featured in many films such as James Bond and Fast and Furious. So we'll mix the history and architecture with a chance to get beyond the barriers. So you head down into Mayfair's Downing Street, it's with the station and the wartime history, and with a connection such as Winston Churchill. And it actually allows you to imagine what it was like working underground during the Blitz. You can follow the hidden beneath the streets of Westminster, a tour of Winston Churchill's war rooms. And here, a few places in the world actually immediately transport you back, but this absolutely does. It takes you straight back in history to the Second World War. So quite effectively, you can see Churchill war rooms as they were, preserved in time, and every corner and corridor has absolutely a story to tell. So it's something that really I wouldn't miss as a tour. An absolute must when you're visiting London, for me and for my family, for anybody really of all ages, is having a traditional afternoon tea. It's my favorite with the family is at Brown's. My young children they love the Jungle Book, and Brown's have a Jungle Book themed afternoon tea. Or you've got something like at the Lanesborough currently has a Bridgerton themed, the famous Netflix series. It's on at the moment. So if you've seen Bridgerton, then you have a Netflix, the Bridgerton themed afternoon tea. Or you go to One Aldwych, which is in London Theatre District, and it takes you to the world of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the mesmerizing element of so much fun that you can have with that afternoon tea there. So you have to include this culinary treat in your trip to London. That is an absolute tip from myself. But there's also nothing more synonymous to the UK than the Mini featured in the original Italian Job, the Mini Cooper. You'll actually have a chance, and this is one of my, again, recommendations, that when you first arrive into London, doing this tour as an orientation tour is absolutely fantastic, because you get a chance to experience the best bits of London that are hidden away. They're tucked down tiny little back streets and little alleyways, places only a Mini can get. And it's such a fun way to actually zip around and see all the different the areas of the capital city. And as I say, I do recommend this for a first-time traveller as your orientation tour. You get a chance to drive around within the Mini Cooper. And for one thing, there's a lot of supercars and hypercars that drive around London and being in itself, but you absolutely get even more people staring at you when you're driving around in a Mini Cooper than you do with anything else. So it's so much fun to start with. And then many of our clients actually will be looking forward to trying and seeing some of these major sites, but actually having private experiences. So if you want to get away from the crowds, this is where A&K becomes into our own, and we work with Teresa to be able to create these insider access experiences where you can enjoy a private before hours visit to the Tower of London, where the Yeoman Warden's Guard that would take you to the dazzling crown jewels, and walk you through this medieval palace where nobody else is there. So these are just a few samples of kind of the mountain of activities that you can do in London. I'm always happy to share more and more with you, but I'm going to continue through London from now, taking you a little bit more on the outskirts. This is heading out of London. You can actually discover so much more. This is beautiful Hampton Court Palace. It's actually on the edge of the River Thames, as you can see here. It's a former palace of Henry VIII. Only 12 miles from central London, but it can actually be reached by the river, which is a fun way to be able to get there. So you can actually take a boat all the way through the central London and arrive up to Hampton Court Palace, or you can be reached by train or by car as well. And there's a really fun maze to be able to go through in the palace gardens in itself. So this kind of starts your journey outside of London, but it's a great combination with Wimbledon, which is just finished. Hampton Court and Wimbledon are almost next door to each other in terms of the boroughs of London. So you'll be able to combine the two, whether it's a tour of Wimbledon or incorporating it next year, a part of the championships, which can help also. And then from there, you can visit Mercedes-Benz World and the Brooklands Museum exhibits, where you range from giant racing cars to a Second World War Wellington bomber, and also the only Concorde that actually is access to the public in the southeast of England. So, and at the end of your tour, you actually get to sit in the cabin for a virtual flight of Concorde as well. Great fun for the family. And then as we move away from London, I'm going to take you through into what is the perfect combination between London, and majority of our clients head through up into Scotland. And we find that a lot of our clients are choosing to become more immersed in the local culture when visiting the destination. And Scotland, well, it's famed for its enduring traditions, truly breathtaking scenery, but also imposing mountains, the heather-clad hills. It's also the birthplace of the finest whiskey, and also to the home of golf. So before we head up to Scotland, there's obviously going to be different ways in terms of how you can actually get there in itself. So if you're visiting London first, and you're wanting to travel up to Scotland afterwards, or indeed beforehand, whichever way you want to look at it, we do recommend booking the train. I think the train journey in the UK is a great way to get around. It's quick, it's easy, it's comfortable. The train lines all work very, very well. And this is a journey from Euston Station and up to Scotland, so up to Edinburgh. It only takes 5 hours. Might seem like a long time, but you can actually break this journey up by staying in the beautiful medieval city of York. This wall actually goes, it's a completely wall fortified city. It actually goes all the way around the city of York. So you can walk around doing these Roman ramparts. Then you go into the York Minster. It's a huge heritage area in terms of linking back to the Viking Age. And there's a Viking museum called the Jorvik Viking Centre, where it actually takes you underground the city when seeing what the city was like during the Viking era. So there's a huge amount to be able to do, and it's only 2 hours from London to York, so you could actually do an overnight stop within York City itself and then hop back on the train, and then you head back up to Edinburgh from there, only about another 2.5 to 3 hours. And it's a beautiful ride along the coastline of the UK. So something definitely to consider in terms of being able to break that journey up. Or another alternative is combining our rail network is our concierge rail service. So our concierge rail is basically where somebody will help you onto the train with your luggage. So we know how so many people want to avoid doing that. They'll find your seat reservation for you, which we've always booked it in first class for you as well. And then you're heading off straight off, where at the other end, the next guardian angel is waiting for you at the carriage door and taking you straight off to your hotel with your private driver. But a classic way to get from London to Scotland has always been the sleeper train. You know, when a lot of the trains were much slower, it took a lot longer. But a great fun way to be able to think about actually getting up to Scotland is this sleeper train. So you actually go from London Euston Station. You travel overnight, arriving into Edinburgh, Glasgow, or even Fort William, as far as north as Fort William in the Highlands the next day. Of course, it runs in the opposite direction. So imagine having dinner in London, and then having the full night's sleep on the train, followed by a hearty cooked breakfast, Scottish breakfast the next day, and then while you're arriving into your chosen destination in Scotland. Just one point for this, while it does lack the grandeur of the Orient Express, for example, it does feature very comfortable beds. They're ensuite bathrooms, as well as a fully stocked whiskey bar as well. So it's definitely a fun way to be able to incorporate going up into Scotland. And arriving in Scotland, as I mentioned, it's famed for different traditions and breathtaking scenery. But our itineraries are designed to see the country at its finest, whether it's taking a hot air balloon over the Trossachs and taking even a seaplane from the Clyde River in Glasgow. You fly up and you head over the Trossachs, you land on Loch Lomond, and then from there you can either enjoy afternoon tea on Loch Lomond at Cameron House, or you can actually stay overnight within Loch Lomond itself and then go and explore the areas from there. But a beautiful way to be able to see the stunning scenery. And then heading further north, riding the Jacobite steam train, the famous Glenfinnan Viaduct, which was featured in Harry Potter. And then off-roading with your very own kilted driver to the Highlands of Scotland. So from here, you'll be joined with your guide, your kilted driver, who's going to take you off-road. As you imagine, if you could just imagine for a second, you're splashing through muddy puddles, you're going up and down, coursing through off-road areas, where you reach this pretty stone cottage, from which we survey this hauntingly beautiful landscape with all the heather-clad hills. And from there, you'll actually be welcomed to the home of Gilly Bassan. Gilly is, she's a renowned Scottish food writer. Her and her son, Zaki, featured here. They live completely off-grid. and are experts in finding the finest and most exquisite combinations of whiskey and food. So you're combining two of the favorite things in Scotland, and you're matching those flavors with a lot of Gillies heritage, which is actually the Middle East and North Africa. So a lot of the spices, you then go foraging with zaki and bring back, and you cook in a rock oven in the ground, as you can see here. You cook a haunch of venison, while you're then having a wee dram of whiskey, cooking that with zaki, and you're combining that with some of the flavors as well. So you're combining the whiskey and the foraging to some of the cooking. So it is the ultimate cookery school right in the middle of the Cairngorms National Park, and you can just sit back and watch the beautiful deer as it wanders in front of the window of a beautiful stone cottage. So something that absolutely mustn't be missed. Then you can actually combine this cookery experience with some of the whiskies of Speyside. Speyside area is world renowned for some of the best whiskies and distilleries in the world. So we'll take you behind the scenes to some of the whiskey distilleries that aren't open to the general public. And you get a chance to not only see the whole distillation process, you also get to try your hand at coopering, which is actually making the barrels themselves. So you'll be there with the master cooperer, assembling the barrel. You then sign the top of the barrel with your signature. It's then filled with whiskey, and it goes into the storehouse. So you've got your very own piece of history there with your own whiskey barrel in the storehouse. And then combining and thinking about different times to go to the UK, but particularly for Scotland, there isn't a bad time. There really isn't. I mean, there are different times in terms of when the weather is better or not, but actually there's always so much going on. Edinburgh is a lively city all year round, but it really bursts with energy towards the end of summer when it hosts the annual Fringe Festival. So it's, if you haven't heard about this before, it's the largest arts festival in the world. There's about 55,000 performers from all over the world at the course of 4 weeks in August. You can really enjoy getting into this festival spirit. And also Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then there's the Edinburgh Tattoo, which you may have heard of, are two of the must festivals in my eyes that you really must come and see if you get the opportunity to travel in August also. So the tattoo is a popular celebration of Scottish tradition, really. It's military pride, takes on around different places from around the world. The festival of performances take place each evening against the backdrop, as you can see here, of the Scottish castle as well in Edinburgh. And then imagine incorporating the private whiskey tastings I mentioned with the world's finest cuisine, and pairing everything up with playing golf on some of the finest courses. So these are the sort of tours that we'd love to be able to incorporate, incorporating golf and the whiskey, and also some fine dining as well through the Highlands of Scotland. And another way you can get involved, and you may have seen this many times before, is doing our best kind of Mel Gibson impression, should we say, of crying out freedom, or not quite, that you can actually don a kilt at your very own mini Highland Games, and you get to actually dress up in the Highland traditions, get involved in some of the activities as well, such as tossing the caber, which is the huge pylon of wood, and tug of war and the hail bale rolling. And these are great fun. It's fun for the whole family, but it's also a spectacle to see. You don't have to get involved. You can just sit back and relax and enjoy the festivities. And at the same time, you can be booked exclusively and going and seeing some of the local castles in and around the area. You can see some of the history and traditions of a lot of the local folk and around, and you actually see the way that the bagpipes are being played and learn how to play the bagpipes. So there's so much to be able to see. And then moving on a little bit further, I'm going to take you a little bit outside of Scotland for a second, and for something very special. We can actually arrange for our guests to have a true Downton Abbey experience by staying at Sudeley Castle, which was actually the once residence, again, of King Henry VIII. Yeah, he's had quite a few palaces, just like Hampton Court. This was another country residence right in the middle of the Cotswolds. It's actually only 10 minutes drive from where I'm based here. So now that it's the private home of Lady Ashcombe. And it's the only castle in England that actually has a former queen that's buried within the grounds of the castle itself. And Lady Ashcombe is fantastic. So she's kindly opened the doors to our guests, and they will have a private tour of the castle before dining with her in a great hall, surrounded by all the priceless, incredible art and history. This is the outside of Sudeley. So you really do immerse yourself into the aristocratic life, as it were. You get a chance to take a personal experience with the Duchess as one of 6 heritage estates. And you enter a stately home offering distinct personality and providing a bit of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience. Then you even get a chance to stay within the private quarters of Sudeley Castle on a fully exclusive basis. So she's never opened the doors before like this, but just to be able to look at this from an A&K standpoint, that you're able to combine this and celebrate the British traditions, savor the comfort in our exclusive rooms. So what an experience to be able to incorporate of dining with Lady Ashcombe and her family, and then staying within the private quarters. You can also explore the countryside by Land Rover, and the Land Rover experience near Eastnor Castle in the Cotswolds. Looking at incorporating things for the family, such as farm visits, walking tours, like a cheese and ale tour in the Cotswolds. And then also looking and bringing on multi-generational travel. So it's incredibly popular, and we go beyond the basic tour of attractions and the level of knowledge and entertainment, but thinking about traveling to different areas in and around creating those lasting memories of a lifetime, such as archery with the children as well. And then you get a chance to stroll as part of the Cotswolds area itself. The famous city, the Roman city of Bath. It's like visiting an open air museum. So if you can imagine, there's roughly about 5,000 buildings in the city, all drawing notice of architectural merit. So these basically, you just wander around the streets with your guide, and you're constantly being shown some of the most amazing natural hot waters, the thermal bath spa, the famous history of Jane Austen, and also the Celts and the Romans, and some of it's basically like walking through a film set, because so many films have been based within Bath in itself. And then taking you through a little bit further as we go through, into the Cotswold area, but a great combination within the Cotswolds is also combining the Cotswolds and heading into Wales that are right next to each other. I'm not going to touch too much on Wales today, but I'd love to be able to come back on with Teresa at a different point to be able to see just how much diversity that it has to offer. But Wales is very much kind of the forgotten about country of the United Kingdom quite often, with some of the best beaches on our island, the best wildlife. There's actually more castles per square foot than anywhere else in the world, which you probably didn't know. It's got the best preserved steam trains in the world. There's family adventures that can't be matched. So really, why wouldn't you want to visit Wales? And then you've got some of the castles that you can get a chance to experience and see, places like Conway Castle. So really doesn't feature much on a lot of the guidebooks, but I would highly recommend incorporating and coming to see some of the beautiful areas in Wales itself. And then before I want to touch on a little bit about accommodation, while I'm not going to go through the thousands of hotels that we do have on offer within the UK, I'm going to talk a little bit about something about thinking, why don't you think about a different type of unique style accommodation that you want to throw into your itinerary? The Fingal Hotel, for example, which is on the top left. The Fingal is an old frigate, and it's based in Edinburgh, but it's converted into a wonderful 5-star hotel. So it's like it's your own floating hotel. Next to the Fingal is the Royal Yacht Britannia. Now, the Royal Yacht, obviously, famous for being former Queen's residence as it floated around the world. She'd use it the main way to get around the world before, obviously, flying around and saving from there. But it's a great museum to be able to go and see, and then you're able to combine it with staying on the Fingal itself, or down towards the south coast in the New Forest and staying in tree houses like in Limewood and Shooting Glen. Great different ways to be able to see the beautiful countryside, or even something completely unique in the Cotswolds is in staying in a hidden hut just outside the little village of Broadway. I've got a different type of unique accommodation to be able to incorporate. So just think about doing something slightly different from there. And what you may not know is, as part of Abercrombie and Kent, we actually have our own villas side of the business. So do ask Teresa about this, because incorporating a villa stay, it's a great way if you've got a group of friends or family traveling together and you want to incorporate something that is like staying in an old traditional manor house like this right in the heart of the Cotswolds. And then you can incorporate all the different activities that I've mentioned to you as well as part of the family. So, and then also outside of the UK, we have lots of different villas in other areas in Europe as well, which I'd love to be able to kind of share with you at a different time. So I've really just whizzed through a lot of the main areas across the UK, in London and Scotland, and just really touched on Wales. But there's so much more to be able to share with you. So should you want to talk about any of these experiences, should you want to know more about these experiences, Teresa and I are absolutely on hand to be able to get together. We can combine a conference call with yourselves, and we can talk about these destinations, create your own itinerary, and make sure that we're able to bring everything together in your best way possible. So Teresa, I hope that kind of covered a few things for you. If there's anything you want to talk about, I'll happily be able to answer anything.
Well, you did a fabulous job, and I appreciate it. You actually took us off grid, some of the unique places in the UK that most people don't do. Most people just stick with the cities because it's easier. They'll do London and Edinburgh, but they won't do countryside because they fear self-drive, and some of the places trains don't get to. So we need to hire your services for sightseeing and tour guiding and all that. But anyway, I do have a couple questions. For the villa rental stay, would there be a minimum night required?
Yeah, normally, so it depends when you stay. So during summer, it tends to be a 7-night. It's probably a little bit more flexible within the UK. If you were outside of the UK and you're staying in villas in Italy or the south of France, for example,
7 nights,
then it's 7 nights. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, and if anybody is watching Outlander or Downton Abbey on streaming services, we can create a Downton Abbey or a Outlander tour, correct?
Absolutely right. Yeah, definitely. We have a full kind of themed itinerary around that I can share with everybody after this, in terms of be able to look and think and feel about that. So yeah, we've got it all covered when it comes to whatever you're interested in.
Awesome. So if anybody is watching and you're inspired by this podcast, please reach out to me. I'm Teresa from Honeymoon Islands, and I will leave my contact information below this video. So until next time, if you can dream it, we will create it. Bye. Bye, Andrew.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more episodes that will unveil new horizons and immerse you in the beauty of global discovery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, if you can dream it, we will create it.